The wedding album arrives 24 years too late, wrapped in yellowed tissue paper and tied with a ribbon that time has turned the color of dried blood. Inside, 200 photographs chronicle a ceremony that never happened, celebrating a bride who vanished the night before she was meant to walk down the aisle. Rewind to June 15, 1999. Millfield, Connecticut. Serafina Duskmore stands at her childhood bedroom window, watching storm clouds gather over the maple trees that line Elm Street. Tomorrow, she'll marry Kalen Viral, her college sweetheart, the man who proposed beneath these same trees on Christmas Eve. Tonight, she's supposed to be sleeping peacefully, dreaming of white silk and promises. Instead, her hands shake as she holds a letter that arrived this morning. No return address, just her name written in careful block letters. Sarah, her mother's voice drifts up the stairs. The rehearsal dinner starts in 20 minutes. Coming, Mom. But Serafina doesn't move. She reads the letter again, though she's memorized every word. Stop the wedding. He's not who you think he is. Check the basement at 412 Thornfield Road. Tonight. Before it's too late. The paper crinkles as her grip tightens. 412 Thornfield Road. She knows that address. It's the house Kalen inherited from his grandfather, the one he's been renovating for their future together. He showed her the blueprints just last week, his eyes bright with plans for a nursery upstairs and a workshop in the basement. Thunder rumbles overhead. Serafina folds the letter and slips it into her jewelry box, next to the pearl necklace sheath. Where tomorrow? The anonymous warning feels like ice in her chest, but logic pushes back. Someone's playing a cruel joke. Kalen loves her, has loved her since they were 19 and studying together in the university library. He brings her coffee every morning, remembers how she likes her eggs, calls her grandmother every Sunday just to check in. Downstairs, the house buzzes with controlled chaos. Her mother, Isolde Nightshade, flutters between the kitchen and living room, checking her watch and muttering about punctuality. Her father, Draven Ashwind, stands before the hallway mirror, fighting with his tie and cursing under his breath. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Isolde smooths an invisible wrinkle from Serafina's navy dress. Are you nervous? It's perfectly normal to have pre-wedding jitters. Serafina forces a smile. Just excited. But the lie tastes bitter. All evening, she watches Kalen across the candlelit restaurant, searching his familiar face for shadows she might have missed. He laughs at her father's terrible jokes, helps her elderly aunt navigate the buffet line, and catches her eye every few minutes to flash that crooked smile that first made her fall in love. He's perfect. Too perfect, whispers a voice that sounds uncomfortably like the anonymous letter writer. After dinner, while their families mingle over coffee and wedding cake preview slices, Kalen pulls her onto the restaurant's small terrace. The storm has passed, leaving the air humid and electric. Cold feet? He asks, tracing circles on her palm. Should I have them? He laughs, but something flickers across his expression, too quick to identify. Hey. His voice turns serious. I know we're young. I know people think we're rushing into this. But I can't imagine my life without you, Sarah. These past 4 years, you've made me want to be better than I ever thought I could be. She studies his face in the amber glow of the patio lights. Kalen has always been handsome in an understated way. Dark hair that falls across his forehead, green eyes that seem to see everything, a mouth that rarely speaks unless he has something meaningful to say. He's steady where she's impulsive, practical where she's dreamy. Her perfect complement. Oh, why does the letter's warning echo in her mind like a discordant note? I love you, she says, because it's true, because saying it might silence the doubt crawling up her spine. I love you, too. He kisses her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. But when he drives her home an hour later, Serafina finds herself memorizing the route to 412 Thornfield Road. It's only 15 minutes from her parents' house. She could drive there, see whatever the letter writer wants her to see, and be back before anyone notices she's gone. Put the doubt to rest once and for all. At her front door, Kalen's goodnight kiss lingers longer than usual. See you at the altar, he murmurs against her hair. Wouldn't miss it for the world. She waits until his taillights disappear around the corner, then waits another 10 minutes to be sure. Her parents have gone to bed, exhausted from the day's festivities. The house creaks and settles around her as she retrieves her car keys from the kitchen counter. The drive to Thornfield Road passes in a blur of streetlights and second-guessing. This is insane. She's going to sneak into her fiancé's property based on an anonymous note from someone who could be anyone. A jealous ex, a disturbed stranger, someone with a grudge against Kaylin's family. When she finds nothing but renovation supplies and sawdust in that basement, she'll feel foolish but relieved. 412 Thornfield Road sits at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by old-growth oaks that cast twisted shadows across the lawn. Kaylin's truck isn't in the driveway. Good. The house itself is a 1920s colonial, paint peeling and shutters hanging askew. In daylight, it looks like a charming fixer-upper. At midnight, it resembles something from a ghost story. Serafina parks across the street and cuts the engine. Her heart hammers against her ribs as she crosses the wet grass. Fishing for the spare key Kaylin keeps under the loose brick beside the front steps. Her hands shake as she unlocks the door. Inside, the house smells of sawdust and something else, something organic and unpleasant that makes her stomach clench. She fumbles for the light switch, illuminating a living room gutted down to the studs. Exposed beams cross the ceiling like ribs. Plastic sheeting covers the windows. The basement door stands slightly ajar. Serafina approaches it slowly, every instinct screaming at her to leave. But the letter's words burn in her memory before it's too late. She pushes the door open and flicks on the basement light. What she sees in that concrete-walled room will haunt her for the rest of her life, however long that might be, because upstairs, the front door closes with a soft click and footsteps begin moving through the house above her head. Serafina explodes through the front door and into the humid night air, Kaylin's fingertips barely missing the back of her dress. She runs across the wet lawn, her heels sinking into the soft earth with every step, but she doesn't dare stop to kick them off. Behind her, the door slams open again, and she can hear Kaylin's heavy breathing as he gives chase. "Sarah, stop." His voice carries a note of desperate authority. "You don't understand what you're getting into. These people, Blackwood, they don't just disappear when you run away from them." She reaches her car and fumbles with the keys, her hands shaking so violently she can barely fit the key into the lock. The engine turns over on the third try, and she throws the car into reverse just as Kaylin appears in her headlights, his face a mask of cold fury. For a split second, their eyes meet through the windshield. The man she thought she loved, the man who was supposed to become her husband in 10 hours, raises his hand as if to wave goodbye. Instead, he pulls out a cell phone and begins dialing. Serafina floors the accelerator and doesn't look back. The drive home passes in a blur of panic and disbelief. Every set of headlights in her rearview mirror could be Kaylin following her. Every parked car could be hiding someone from this Blackwood Acquisitions. The contract burns like acid in her purse, its clinical language replaying in her mind. Payment. Upon delivery of viable specimen, that she's not a person to them. She's merchandised, at home. The house sits dark and peaceful, her parents long asleep after the rehearsal dinner celebrations. Serafina lets herself in through the kitchen door, moving as quietly as possible up the back stairs to her childhood bedroom. Only when she's safely behind her locked door does she allow herself to collapse on her bed, still wearing her navy dress, still clutching her purse like a lifeline. The photographs spill across her pink bedspread, images of herself that she never knew existed. Here she is studying in the library, completely absorbed in a textbook, unaware that someone is documenting her from across the room. Here she is walking across campus in winter, snow catching in her hair, her face turned toward the sun. The intimacy of these stolen moments makes her feel violated in a way she can't articulate. She picks up her phone to call the police, then hesitates. What would she tell them? That her fiancé has been watching her for years? That's not necessarily illegal. That he signed some kind of contract involving her? Without understanding what Blackwood Acquisitions actually does, she has no idea if any crime has been committed, but the name from the basement echoes in her memory, Talia Ravenshade. According to Kaylin, Talia was his first success who started asking the wrong questions, which means Talia might be the only person who can explain what Serafina has stumbled into. She boots up her laptop and begins searching. Talia Ravenshade, Yale University Psychology. The first few results are standard, a graduation announcement from 1996, a mention in the dean's list. But then she finds something that makes her blood run cold. Missing student case remains unsolved after 3 years. The Hartford Courant article is dated 1997. Talia's photograph stares back at her from the screen. A beautiful young woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes, not unlike Serafina herself. According to the article, Talia disappeared from her apartment near Yale's campus one October evening, leaving behind no note, no indication of where she might have gone. Her car was found a week later in the parking lot of a bus station in Hartford, keys still in the ignition, but buried in the third paragraph. Serafina finds the detail that makes her hands tremble. Friends reported that Raven Shade had been dating a graduate student named Kaylin Viral for approximately 2 years. Before her disappearance, Viral was questioned by police, but released without charges due to lack of evidence. The room spins around her. Kaylin told her he'd never been in a serious relationship before they met. Another lie in a foundation built entirely on deception. She keeps reading, following link after link, until she finds a blog post from 2003 that makes her heart stop entirely. It's titled Still Looking for My Sister, and the author identifies herself as Lysandra Munfen, Talia's younger sister. It's been 6 years since Talia disappeared, and I still don't believe she ran away like the police think. My sister was the strongest person I knew. She wouldn't just abandon her life, her studies, her family. Someone took her, and I think I know who. Before she disappeared, Talia called me several times talking about strange things her boyfriend was doing. How he seemed to know too much about her schedule, her habits. How he'd given her gifts that seemed too personal. For how long they'd been dating. Books by authors she'd mentioned loving in private journal entries. Jewelry that matched pieces she'd admired in stores when she was alone. She was starting to feel like he was watching her. The last time we spoke, she said she was going to confront him. She'd found something in his apartment that scared her, but she wouldn't tell me what. That was October 15th, 1997. She disappeared. 3 days later, if anyone has information about Talia Ravenshade or Kaylin Viral, please contact me. I'm not giving up on finding my sister. The blog post includes a phone number and an email address. Serafina stares at them for a long moment, then copies the number into her phone. Her finger hovers over the call button. It's nearly 2 in the morning, but this can't wait until sunrise. If Kaylin is capable of making people disappear, if Talia Ravenshade is dead because she asked the wrong questions, then Serafina is running out of time. The phone rings 4 times before a woman's voice answers, groggy with sleep. Hello, is this Lysandra Munfen? A pause. Who's asking? My name is Serafina Duskmore. I think Kaylin Viral tried to do to me what he did to your sister. The silence on the other end of the line stretches so long that Serafina wonders if the call has dropped. Then, Lysandra's voice comes back, sharp and fully awake. Where are you right now? At home. In Millfield, Connecticut. Listen to me very carefully, Lysandra says, and her tone carries the weight of 6 years of investigation and grief. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust anyone you haven't known since childhood. And whatever you do, don't let them take you to a secondary location. Talia made that mistake, and I never saw her again. Through her bedroom window, Serafina sees headlights turning onto her street. The headlights move slowly down Elm Street, as if the driver is searching for something. Serafina kills her bedroom light and presses herself against the window frame, watching the dark sedan cruise past her house once, twice, then park 3 houses down under the shadow of an old elm tree. They're here, she whispers into the phone. Lysandra's voice sharpens. How many cars? One that I can see. But Lysandra, I'm supposed to get married in 8 hours. My whole family is here. The church is booked, 200 guests. Forget the wedding. The words cut through Serafina's panic. Like a blade. That wedding was never real. It was always meant to be your delivery date. The sedan's engine cuts off, but nobody emerges. They're watching, waiting. Professional patience that suggests this isn't their first extraction. I found documents in Kaylin's basement. Serafina continues, her voice barely above a whisper. Something about Blackwood Acquisitions. A contract that mentioned payment for delivery of a viable specimen. Lysandra draws in a sharp breath. You found proof. After all these years, you actually found proof. Her voice wavers between elation and terror. Serafina, Listen to me. Blackwood isn't just some criminal organization. They're procurement specialists for people who can afford to buy anything, including other people. Wealthy clients who want the perfect wife, the ideal companion, someone who's been psychologically profiled and prepared for complete submission. The clinical language from the contract suddenly makes horrible sense. Successful integration protocols. They're not just kidnapping women. They're breaking them down and rebuilding them to order. How do you know all this? Because I've spent 6 years tracking them, Lysandra says. After Talia disappeared, I couldn't let it go. I dropped out of college, learned how to hack databases, followed money trails that led to shell companies and offshore accounts. Blackwood Acquisitions is the tip of an iceberg that goes down further than you can imagine. Serafina's phone buzzes with an incoming text. The number isn't in her contacts, but she recognizes it from the wedding planning. It's supposed to be from the florist. Change of plans for tomorrow. Need to meet early to discuss final arrangements. 5:30 a.m. at the church. Come alone, she shows the message to her phone camera, hoping Lysandra can see it through their video call. They're trying to get me to a secondary location. Don't even consider it. Lysandra's image is pixelated in the dim light of what appears to be a cluttered office space. Behind her, Serafina can make out bulletin boards covered with photographs, maps, and red string connecting various points. That's exactly how they took Talia. A last-minute emergency that required her to meet someone alone. Another text arrives, this one from Kaylin's number. Sarah, we need to talk. I can explain everything. Meet me at our place by the lake. Please. I love you. The words that once would have melted her heart now feel like manipulation, calculated to exploit the emotional connection he spent years building. But underneath the revulsion, a desperate plan begins forming. Lysandra, how many other women do you think they've taken? Based on the patterns I've tracked? At least 12 over the past decade. Different operatives, different cover stories. But always the same methodology. Long-term relationship building, psychological profiling, then disappearance disguised as something else. Some supposedly ran away to start new lives. Others died in accidents after their families started asking questions. Serafina's stomach lurches. What happened to them? The women they took. I don't know. The admission clearly cost Lysandra something. I've never found any of them. Which either means they're very good at hiding their operations, or she doesn't need to finish the sentence. Either the women are being held somewhere impossible to find, or they're dead. The sedan's door finally opens. A tall figure emerges, moving with predatory grace across the wet pavement. Not Kaylin, someone else. Someone who knows exactly which. House is hers. I have to get out of here, Serafina breathes. Where can you go? Somewhere with lots of people, somewhere public. Serafina's mind races through options. The church where she's supposed to be married in 7 hours. The hotel where out-of-town guests are staying. Her grandmother's house across town. All of them feel like traps now, places where Blackwood would expect her to run. The police station. She decides. No. Lysandra's response is immediate and firm. Serafina, Blackwood has been operating for at least a decade without getting caught. That kind of longevity requires protection at high levels. Police, judges, politicians, they've bought enough people to stay invisible. The figure outside has reached her front yard. In the streetlight's glow, Serafina can see it's a woman, middle-aged, professionally dressed, carrying what looks like a medical bag. She moves up the walkway with the confidence of someone who has every right to be there. There's someone at my door. Front or back? Front. Serafina is already moving, grabbing her purse and the scattered photographs. I'm going out the back. Smart. Do you have somewhere to go? Someone you trust completely? The doorbell rings downstairs, followed by gentle knocking. Not the aggressive approach Serafina expected, but somehow that makes it more terrifying. They're confident enough to be polite. My Aunt Myrtle, Serafina whispers as she creeps down the back stairs. She lives an hour north, up in the mountains. She's been off the grid for years. No internet, no cell service, grows her own food. If I can get there without them following, good. But Serafina, you need to understand something. Running away won't stop this. They've invested too much in you to just let you disappear. And now that you've seen their operation, you're not just merchandise anymore. You're a liability. The knocking at the front door continues, patient but persistent. Serafina reaches the kitchen and peers through the back window. The yard appears empty, but shadows shift between the trees at the property line. They've surrounded the house. What do I do? You fight back. Lyssandra's voice carries 6 years of rage and determination. You gather evidence, document everything, and you help me bring these bastards down. Because you're the first person to escape with proof, Serafina. You might be the only chance we get to save the others. The others. Women who are trapped somewhere, broken and reshaped into somebody else's fantasy. Women like Talia, whose families still wonder what happened to them. Serafina takes a deep breath and makes her choice. Tell me what I need to do. Through the kitchen window, she sees movement in the backyard. 2 more figures emerging from the tree line, cutting off her escape route. But there's one path they haven't covered, the old storm drain that runs under the street, the one she used to explore as a child. The front door knocking stops that eye in the sudden silence. Serafina hears the soft scrape of metal on metal. Someone is picking the lock. The lock clicks open just as Serafina slips out the kitchen door into the humid pre-dawn darkness. She moves in a crouch across the back patio, her bare feet silent on the wet flagstones. Her wedding shoes lie abandoned. Upstairs, she kicked them off while gathering the photographs, and now she's grateful for the silence. The storm drain entrance hides behind overgrown honeysuckle vines at the back corner of her parents' property. She hasn't crawled through these tunnels since she was 12, but muscle memory guides her hands to the rusted grate. It swings open with a protesting squeal that sounds deafeningly loud in the quiet night. Behind her, she hears the soft whisper of the kitchen door opening. Serafina drops into the concrete tunnel without looking back. The drain runs beneath the entire neighborhood, carrying runoff from street gutters to the creek that winds through the woods beyond Millfield's borders. As children, she and her sister used to pretend they were explorers mapping underground kingdoms. Now the cramped space feels like a lifeline. She crawls forward on hands and knees, her phone's flashlight illuminating moldy concrete walls and scattered debris. The tunnel is smaller than she remembers, and twice she has to stop and control her breathing as claustrophobia threatens to overwhelm her. But behind the fear, Lyssandra's voice echoes. You're the first person to escape with proof. The drain emerges behind the Greaves house 2 blocks away, hidden by a thick stand of bamboo that old Mrs. Greaves planted decades ago for privacy. Serafina pulls herself out of the tunnel, gasping in the humid air and brushing cobwebs from her hair. Her navy dress is torn and filthy, but she's alive and free. For now, she stays low as she makes her way through the neighborhood's back alleys, avoiding streetlights and main roads. Every car engine makes her heart race. Every shadow could hide another operative. But gradually, the houses thin out, and she reaches the edge of town where Route 7 begins its winding climb into the mountains. Aunt Muriel's cabin sits 20 miles north, accessible only by a dirt road that most GPS systems don't recognize. If Serafina can find a way to get there without leaving a trail, she might have a chance to regroup and plan her next move. The Millfield bus station occupies a converted gas station at the town's northern edge. 3 buses per day connect the small town to the outside world. Early morning, afternoon, and evening routes that serve the ski resorts and hiking trails deeper in the mountains. Serafina checks the posted schedule with her phone's flashlight. The morning bus leaves at 6:15 a.m., stopping at Deer Creek, Pine Ridge, and finally Whispering Falls, the closest stop to Muriel's property. At it's 4:30 now. Less than 2 hours until her wedding ceremony is supposed to begin. She settles behind a dumpster to wait, pulling out her phone to call Lysandra back. The other woman answers on the first ring. Are you safe? For now. I'm at the bus station. There's a 6:15 that will get me close to my aunt's place. Good. But Serafina, we need to talk about what happens next. Running away might keep you alive short term, but Blackwood won't give up. They've invested years in you, and now you're a witness to their operation. Serafina wraps her arms around her knees, trying to stop shivering. The early morning air carries a chill that has nothing to do with temperature. How many people are involved in this? It can't just be Kaylin. The network is bigger than you can imagine. Lysandra's voice takes on the exhausted quality of someone who's been fighting a losing battle for years. Kaylin is what they call a handler, someone who specializes in long-term psychological manipulation. But there are also scouts who identify potential targets, researchers who build psychological profiles, cleaners who handle the extraction and transport, and clients who place the orders. Orders, wealthy men, and some women who want a specific type of companion. Someone with particular physical characteristics, educational background, personality traits. The handler's job is to create an emotional bond so strong that when the target disappears, it looks voluntary. They leave behind letters talking about needing space, wanting to start fresh somewhere new. The families grieve, but they don't investigate. The pieces of Serafina's life rearrange themselves into a horrifying new pattern. Every shared interest, every private joke, every moment of perfect understanding between her and Kalen, all of it calculated to create dependency and trust. But I found the evidence, she says. That changes things, right? It changes everything. That contract you found, the photographs, if we can get them to the right people, we might finally have enough to bring down the whole network. A car turns into the bus station parking lot, its headlights sweeping across the empty pavement. Serafina ducks lower behind the dumpster, but it's just an early commuter checking the schedule. Still, her heart doesn't stop pounding until the car drives away. Lysandra, there's something else. The letter writer, the person who warned me. About Kalen. You said it was your sister. Talia didn't write that letter. Lysandra's voice turns grim. Talia's been missing for 6 years. But someone inside Blackwood is trying to sabotage them from within. Over the past year, I've received 3 anonymous tips about their operations. Someone who knows their methods, their schedules, their targets. A whistleblower, or another victim who managed to survive and escape. Someone who's been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The implications send ice through Serafina's veins. If other women have escaped Blackwood's network, where are they? Why haven't they gone to the authorities? Because the authorities can't be trusted, Lysandra continues, as if reading her thoughts. I told you, this organization has protection at high levels. Local police, state investigators, federal agents. They've been operating for too long and too successfully to be completely independent. A new text arrives on Serafina's phone from another unknown number. Bus station isn't safe. They know about Mountain Route. Go to Wyndham Center instead. Take Red Line subway to South Station. Look for woman in blue scarf carrying roses. Serafina shows the message to her phone camera. Another warning. That's her, Lysandra breathes. That's our mysterious helper. Serafina, I think you need to follow those instructions. But what about my aunt? What about hiding out until this blows over? This isn't going to blow over. And your aunt? Lysandra pauses, and when she speaks again, her voice carries a terrible certainty. How well do you really know her? How long has it been since you visited? The question hits like a physical blow. Serafina realizes with growing horror that she hasn't seen Aunt Muriel in over 2 years. Not since Christmas of 1997, when Muriel came to dinner and spent the evening asking detailed questions about Serafina's college life, her relationships, her plans for the future, the same Christmas. When Kalen started showing up everywhere she went. Oh God, Serafina whispers. She's part of it, isn't she? I don't know. But we can't take that chance. Follow the instructions in the text. Get to South Station and find the woman with the roses. She's our only lead to whoever's been trying to help victims escape. Another car turns into the parking lot. This one moving too slowly, too deliberately. Serafina recognizes the dark sedan from her street. They found her. She runs for the tree line without looking back, crashing through underbrush as the sedan's doors slam shut behind her. Voices call out in the darkness, coordinated and professional. They're not panicking. They're hunting. But as Serafina reaches the edge of the woods, her phone buzzes with one more message. Don't let them take you alive. Some fates are worse than death. Serafina crashes through the underbrush, branches catching at her torn dress and scratching her. Bare arms. Behind her, flashlight beams sweep through the darkness like searchlights, and she can hear at least 3 different voices coordinating the pursuit. They're not shouting or panicking. Their communication is calm, efficient, practiced. Perimeter. Secured on the north side. Visual contact lost, but thermal shows movement heading toward the creek. Thermal. They have equipment that can track her body heat. This isn't just a kidnapping. It's a military-style operation. The creek runs cold and fast through the woods, swollen from last night's storm. Serafina doesn't hesitate. She wades in up to her waist, gasping as the icy water soaks through her dress. If they're using thermal imaging, The cold water might mask her heat signature long enough for her to escape. She follows the creek downstream, moving as quietly as possible through the rushing water. Her feet slip on moss-covered rocks, and twice. She nearly falls, but she keeps moving. The voices behind her grow fainter, more frustrated. Whatever technology they're using, it's not infallible. After 20 minutes of careful progress, she reaches the old railroad bridge that spans the creek near Route 7. The tracks have been abandoned for decades, but the bridge still stands. Its rusted steel girders offering handholds for the climb up the embankment at the top. She finds herself on the old rail line that once connected Millfield to the larger towns north and south. Weeds grow between the rotting ties, and the rails themselves have been salvaged for scrap. But the cleared path still cuts straight through the forest. Her phone has no signal here, but she remembers Lyssandra's instructions. Get to Wyndham Center. Take the red line to South Station. Find the woman with roses. It's a 3-hour hike to Wyndham if she follows the old railroad grade, but it beats risking the roads where Blackwood might be watching. As she walks, the reality of her situation settles over her like a weight. In 2 hours, her wedding guests will begin arriving at St. Mary's Church. Her mother will be frantic when she can't find her daughter. Her father will probably call the police. Kalen will play the devastated groom perfectly, worried sick about his missing bride. They'll search for her, of course. But they'll be looking for a runaway bride, not a kidnapping victim. And by the time anyone realizes the truth, she'll either be dead or disappeared into whatever hell Blackwood has prepared for her. The thought of her parents' grief threatens to buckle her knees. But Lyssandra's words echo in her memory. You're the first person to escape with proof. If she can stay alive long enough to expose Blackwood, maybe she can prevent other families from going through the same nightmare. The sun rises as she walks, painting the forest in shades of gold and green. Under different circumstances, it would be beautiful. Instead, every shadow could hide a pursuer. Every sound could signal discovery. She keeps moving, one foot in front of the other, following the ghost of a railroad toward an uncertain salvation. Her phone finally shows bars as she approaches Wyndham Center's outskirts. Immediately, it buzzes with notifications. Missed calls from her parents, frantic texts from bridesmaids, voice messages from vendors asking about last-minute details. The wedding that was supposed to begin in 30 minutes. But mixed in with the chaos is another message from the unknown number. Red line southbound. Car 3, seat 14B. Woman in blue scarf will approach you. Trust no one else. The specificity is both comforting and terrifying. Someone is watching, tracking her movements with the same precision that Blackwood used to stalk her for years. But this time, the surveillance feels protective rather than predatory. Wyndham Center's subway station sits beneath a converted textile mill, its platform carved from living rock. During weekday rush hours, it's packed with commuters heading to Boston. But on a Saturday morning, only a handful of passengers wait for the southbound train. Serafina buys her ticket with cash and tries to blend in with the other travelers. Her appearance draws some curious glances. Torn dress, scratched arms, no shoes. But in a city, people are practiced at looking away from others' problems. The Red Line train arrives with a mechanical screech that echoes off the stone walls. Car 3 is nearly empty, and seat 14B sits in the middle section, facing forward. Serafina settles into the worn fabric seat and tries to look like any other passenger. The next stop, she spots the woman with the blue scarf that she's older than Serafina expected, maybe 45, with graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She carries a small bouquet of white roses wrapped in brown paper, and she moves with the careful gait of someone who's been injured and learned to compensate. When she reaches row 14, she pauses as if consulting something in her purse, then slides into the seat across the aisle. For several minutes, they don't acknowledge each other. The woman reads a paperback novel, occasionally glancing out the window at the passing landscape. Serafina stares at her phone, scrolling through the increasingly desperate messages from her family. Then the woman drops her roses as she bends to retrieve them. She whispers without looking at Serafina, "My name is Corwin Blackthorne. I was supposed to marry a man named Marcus Webb in 2003. The name hits Serafina like a punch to the stomach. Marcus Webb. She's seen that name in her research, connected to another missing woman case from years ago. You escaped, Serafina breathes. No, Corwin's voice is flat, matter of fact. I was delivered exactly as planned. I spent 3 years in a compound in Montana, being trained to be the perfect wife for a technology executive who collected women like other people collect art. I only escaped when the compound burned down and they thought I died in the fire. She sits back up, clutching the roses, her face pale but determined. There are others, Serafina. Women who've been missing for years, held in places that don't exist on any map. And there's a way to find them, but only if you're willing to go back into the belly of the beast. The train begins to slow as it approaches South Station. Through the windows, Serafina can see the sprawling terminal where thousands of passengers move through the concourses every day. What do you mean, go back? Corwin stands, smoothing down her jacket with hands that bear faint scars around the wrists. I mean, we let Blackwood think they've caught you. We let them take you to the compound. And then we bring the whole system down from the inside. The train stops with a hydraulic hiss. Doors slide open, and commuters begin filing out onto the platform. But first, Corwin says, there's someone you need to meet. Someone who's been hunting Blackwood even longer than I have. She steps off the train, and after a moment's hesitation, Serafina follows. They emerge into the chaos of South Station during Saturday afternoon rush. Thousands of people moving in every direction. But as they climb the stairs toward the main terminal, Serafina spots familiar faces in the crowd. Blackwood operatives, positioned at every exit. Don't look at them, Corwin murmurs as they merge with the crowd flowing through South Station's main terminal. Move naturally. They're positioned at the exits, but they won't move on us here. Too many witnesses, too many cameras. Serafina forces herself to keep walking, but her peripheral vision catches glimpses of the hunting pack that's closed around them. A woman in a business suit by the Amtrak gates, her attention too focused on the crowd. A man reading a newspaper near the food court, his eyes tracking over the pages. A janitor mopping the same section of floor for the third time. How many, she whispers. 6 that I can see. Professional team. They've been planning this extraction for hours. Corwin's voice carries the grim experience of someone who's studied predators from the inside. But they're about to learn that some prey bites back. They weave through the terminal toward the taxi stand, just 2 more travelers among thousands. But as they approach the street exit, one of the operatives, the businessman with the newspaper, begins, moving to intercept them. Change of plans, Corwin says. She grabs Serafina's hand and pulls her toward a maintenance door marked, authorized personnel only. Without hesitation, she produces a key card and swipes it through the electronic lock. The door opens into a concrete stairwell that leads down into the station's infrastructure level. Emergency lighting casts everything in harsh white angles, and the air smells of machine oil and electrical systems. How did you? I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years, Corwin explains as they descend. Building networks, planting assets, learning how to move through the city without being tracked. There are more of us than you realize, Serafina. Women who escaped, families of victims, people who figured out that something terrible is happening, right under everyone's noses. They reach a sublevel that houses the station's mechanical systems, massive air handlers, electrical panels, and a maze of pipes that carry water and steam throughout the building. But it's not empty. 3 people wait in the shadows between the machinery, and Serafina's breath catches as she recognizes one of them. Lysandra. The woman who steps forward is older than her voice suggested over the phone, maybe 35, with the lean build of someone who's survived on determination and very little else. Her dark hair is pulled back severely, and her eyes hold the hollow intensity of a person who's seen too much. We finally meet, Lysandra says, though I wish it were under better circumstances. The other 2 figures emerge from the shadows. One is a man in his 50s with the bearing of ex-military, his gray hair cropped short and his attention constantly scanning for threats. The other is a young woman, barely 20, with the pale complexion of someone who spends too much time indoors. This is Garrick Ironmore, Lysandra continues, gesturing to the older man. Former FBI, until he started asking questions about cases that were supposed to stay buried. And this is Narissa Deepglen. She's our tech specialist. Garrick nods tersely. We need to move. Blackwood's teams are sweeping the building, and it's only a matter of time before they find the maintenance access. Where are we going? Serafina asks. Somewhere they won't think to look, Nerissa says. Her voice is soft, but her fingers fly over a tablet with practiced efficiency. I've been monitoring their communications for the past hour. They've locked down the obvious escape routes, airports, train stations, major highways. But they're thinking like hunters, not like prey. She shows them her screen, which displays a map of Boston overlaid with red dots marking Blackwood positions. They've got the city surrounded, but they're focused on preventing you from leaving. They don't expect you to go deeper into their territory. What do you mean? Serafina stares at the tactical display, overwhelmed by the scope of the operation hunting her. Blackwood's East Coast headquarters is right here in Boston, Lysandra explains. A corporate office building downtown, completely legitimate on the surface. But in the basement levels, they run their processing center, where they break down victims psychologically before shipping them to their final destinations. The clinical language makes Serafina's skin crawl. Processing center? Think of it as a factory, Corwin says quietly. They take independent women with their own thoughts, dreams, and personalities, and they systematically destroy everything that makes them who they are. Then they rebuild them according to their client's specifications. Garrick checks his watch. We have a narrow window. Blackwood will expect us to run, to try to get Serafina as far away as possible. Instead, we're going to walk into their headquarters and document everything we find. That's insane, Serafina breathes. It's the only way, Lysandra insists. For 6 years, I've been chasing shadows, following paper trails that lead nowhere, trying to prove something I could never quite grasp. But you found physical evidence, contracts, photographs, documentation of their methods. If we can get inside their facility and gather more proof, we can expose the entire network. Nerissa's tablet chimes with an alert. They found the maintenance door. We have maybe 5 minutes before they reach this level. Then we go now, Garrick decides. He leads them deeper into the mechanical level, through a maze of pipes and electrical conduits, until they reach another stairwell. This one leads up, instead of down, emerging through a hidden panel in the building's parking garage. A van waits in the shadows between concrete pillars, black, unremarkable, the kind of vehicle that disappears in city traffic. But as they approach, Serafina notices something that makes her heart stop. Through the van's rear window, she glimpses a figure bound and gagged in the back. A young woman with dark hair and terrified eyes. That's not one of ours, Garrick growls. Reaching for a weapon concealed under his jacket, the van's side door slides open, and Kalen steps out with his hands raised in apparent surrender. But his smile is the predatory expression she saw in the basement, not the warm grin that fooled her for 4 years. Hello, darling, he says. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Behind him, 2 more operatives emerge from the van, both armed. In the confined space of the parking garage, there's nowhere to run. The woman in the van, Lysandra demands. Who is she? Kalen's smile widens. Why don't you ask her yourself? I think you'll find her very familiar. The bound figure in the van lifts her head, and even through the duct tape covering her mouth, her identity is unmistakable. It's Talia Ravenshade. Alive, but forever changed by 6 years in Blackwood's custody. Lysandra's knees nearly buckle at the sight of her sister. Talia's once vibrant dark hair hangs lank and lifeless around a face that's been sculpted by years of psychological torture. Her eyes, once bright with intelligence and curiosity, now hold the glassy emptiness of someone whose spirit has been systematically broken and rebuilt. Talia, Lysandra whispers, taking an involuntary step toward the van. I wouldn't, Kalen warns, his voice carrying the casual confidence of someone who holds all the cards. She's been conditioned very carefully over the past 6 years. Any sudden movements or loud noises cause her significant distress. As if to prove his point, Talia flinches at the sound of his voice, pressing herself deeper into the van's corner. Despite her restraints, Garrick's hand remains steady on his concealed weapon, but Serafina can see the calculation in his eyes. Too many civilians, too much risk of collateral damage. The operatives flanking Kalen are professionals. Their positioning ensures that any attempt to draw weapons will result in multiple casualties. What do you want? Serafina asks, though she already knows the answer. Simple trade, Kalen replies. You come with me willingly, and your new friends get to walk away. Plus, Lysandra gets her sister back. His smile turns razor sharp. Of course, Talia isn't exactly the person she used to be, but family is family, right? Don't listen to him, Corwin hisses. Blackwood doesn't honor deals. The moment you get in that van, everyone here dies. Actually, we have a much more elegant solution in mind. Kalen reaches into his jacket, slowly, keeping his other hand visible, and produces a small device that looks like a combination phone and tablet. Narissa, you're going to love this. We've been monitoring your little resistance network for months. The color drains from Narissa's face as she stares at the device. That's impossible. My communications are encrypted, routed through multiple servers that we've had access to since day one, Kalen finishes. Did you really think a girl who learned hacking from YouTube videos could outsmart a billion-dollar operation? He taps the screen, and Serafina watches in horror as surveillance footage begins playing. The images show their entire morning, her escape through the storm drain, the meeting at the bus station, even their descent into South Station's maintenance level. Every move they thought was secret has been observed and recorded. You let me escape, Serafina realizes. This whole thing was orchestrated. Partially. Kalen's admission carries a note of professional pride. We knew about the letter. We've been tracking our anonymous saboteur for over a year. We also knew that eventually, someone would try to contact you. What we didn't expect was for you to be quite so resourceful in your escape. Lysandra's face twists with rage and despair. The whole network is compromised. Not the whole network, Kalen corrects. Just the parts we needed to compromise. You see, catching one runaway bride is simple, but catching an entire resistance cell, that requires more finesse. One of the operatives speaks into a hidden microphone, and within seconds, the parking garage fills with the sound of approaching vehicles. Serafina counts at least 6 engines, boxing them in from every direction. Now, Kalen continues, here's how this is going to work. All of you are coming with us. Serafina will be processed according to her original contract. Lysandra and her sister will be reunited in our Montana facility. I'm sure our clients will find the psychological dynamics of broken family bonds quite fascinating. Derek will disappear permanently, and Narissa's hacking skills will be repurposed for our organization. And Corwin? Serafina asks that Kalen's expression darkens. Corwin is a special case. She destroyed a multi-million-dollar facility and cost us 17 assets. Her processing will be much more intensive. The vehicles have stopped, their engines idling ominously in the concrete space. Serafina can see operatives taking positions. At every exit, their movements coordinated with military precision. But as Kalen savors his moment of triumph, Narissa's fingers move across her tablet with desperate speed. She's not trying to escape or call for help. She's uploading something. It's done, she announces quietly. What's done? Kalen demands. Narissa looks up with the serene expression of someone who's just played their final card. Everything. Every file, every photograph, every document we've collected over the past 3 years. Financial records, client lists, facility locations, employee databases. All of it uploaded to 17 different news organizations, 3 federal agencies, and about 200 social media accounts. Kalen's composure cracks for the first time. You're bluffing. Dead man switch, Narissa explains. If I don't check in every 12 hours, the upload protocol activates automatically. And since you're about to kill or disappear all of us, I just triggered it manually. She holds up her tablet, showing a progress bar that's nearly complete. Estimated time to full distribution, 47 minutes. The operatives look to Kalen for orders, but for the first time since Serafina has known him, he appears genuinely uncertain. Whatever contingency plans Blackwood has prepared, mass media exposure clearly wasn't one of them. You just signed the death warrant for every woman in our facilities, he says finally. The moment this goes public, they become liabilities instead of assets. Then you'd better hope we can work out a deal, Garrick interjects. His weapon is now visible, though, still pointed at the ground. Because killing us won't stop the upload, and you've got less than an hour to figure out damage control. Serafina watches this standoff unfold with growing horror. Even if they escape, even if Narissa's gambit works, dozens of women are about to die simply because they witnessed Blackwood's operations. But in the van behind Kalen, something has changed. Talia's restraints have loosened, whether through her own efforts or some fail-safe mechanism. and she's reaching for something hidden beneath the van's bench seat. When she emerges, she's holding a pistol with the steady grip of someone who's been planning this moment for a very long time. "Hello, Kaylin," she says, her voice hoarse but steady. "Remember me?" The parking garage freezes into a tableau of crossed loyalties and deadly intentions. Talia stands in the van's doorway, the pistol trained on Kaylin's back with unwavering precision. 6 years of captivity have hollowed out her cheeks and dimmed her eyes, but her grip on the weapon is rock steady. "Talia, what are you doing?" Lysandra's voice cracks with confusion and hope. "You're free. Come to me." "I was never free," Talia replies without taking her eyes off Kaylin. "Even when they untied me, even when they let me walk around the compound, I was still their property. But they made one mistake. They taught me to kill." Kaylin turns slowly, his hands still raised, but his expression shifting from confident control to genuine fear. "Talia, sweetheart, let's talk about this. You know what happens when you disobey orders. You remember the conditioning." A shudder runs through Talia's body at his words, and for a moment, the gun wavers. But then her jaw sets with determination. "I remember everything. The electroshock therapy when I refused to call Marcus master. The drugs that made me forget my own name for weeks. The other women who disappeared when they became too broken to be useful. The Blackwood operatives are caught in an impossible position. Any move against Talia risks hitting their handler, but allowing her to maintain control of the weapon undermines their entire operation." 6 years, Talia continues, her voice gaining strength. 6 years of pretending to be broken while I plan this moment. Do you know how many nights I lay awake thinking about putting a bullet in your head? "Talia," Serafina says gently, stepping forward despite Garrick's restraining hand on her arm. "You don't have to do this. Narissa's upload will expose everything. Justice will come through the courts." "Justice?" Talia laughs, but the sound holds no humor. "You think the courts will convict them? Half the judges in 3 states are on Blackwood's payroll. The other half will never see the evidence because it'll be ruled inadmissible on technicalities." Kaylin seizes on the moment of distraction. "She's right, you know. Even if your little computer trick works, we have contingency plans. Shell companies will fold, executives will disappear offshore, and in 6 months, we'll be operating under a new name with new facilities. But you'll be dead," Talia points out conversationally. "And then what? You think killing me solves anything? There are 12 other handlers just like me." "Talia, killing me just means they promote someone else. Maybe, but you won't be there to see it." The standoff stretches taut as piano wire. In the distance, Serafina can hear sirens, whether coming toward them or responding to some other emergency. She can't tell. But time is running out, and everyone in the garage knows it. "There's another way," Corwin says suddenly. She's been silent throughout the confrontation, but now she steps forward with the careful movements of someone approaching a wounded animal. "Talia, what if we could shut down more than just Blackwood? What if we could destroy the entire network?" "What are you talking about?" Lysandra demands. "The compound in Montana wasn't just a holding facility," Corwin explains, her eyes fixed on Talia. "It was a hub. Financial records, client databases, operational protocols for facilities in 12 countries. Everything was backed up to servers in the basement levels." Talia's gun doesn't waver, but her attention sharpens. Those servers were destroyed in the fire. The primary servers, yes, but there were off-site backups. Encrypted, but not impossible. To crack if you know the right pressure points. Corwin glances at Narissa. "How long would you need to crack military-grade encryption?" "Months, maybe years. Not if you had inside help," Talia says slowly. "Not if you had someone who spent 6 years watching them input access codes and security protocols." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Talia isn't just a victim. She's a walking database of Blackwood's most sensitive information. "You memorized everything," Serafina breathes. "I had to do something to stay sane," Talia replies. "So I started paying attention. Security codes, personnel files, client preferences, shipping manifests. 6 years of intelligence gathering disguised as compliance." Kaylin's face has gone pale. "If you exposure the client list, billionaires, politicians, entertainment moguls," Talia recites. "Men who pay millions for the perfect wife, daughter, or companion. Men who think their money makes them untouchable. They'll kill you before you can use any of that information, Kaylin warns. Kill all of you. These people don't leave loose ends. Then we'd better move fast, Garrick says. He's holstered his weapon and pulled out a different device, a military-grade communication system. Nerissa, how long until your upload completes? 32 minutes. That's not enough time to shut down their operations, Lysandra protests. They'll start killing hostages the moment the story breaks. Not if we give them something bigger to worry about, Talia says. She reaches into the van and produces a small hard drive. Every transaction, every client payment, every bribe to law enforcement and government officials. 6 years of financial records that will bring down half the power structure on 3 continents. She tosses the drive to Nerissa. Upload that along with everything else. Make sure the Financial Crimes Unit gets a copy. They move faster than anyone when there's money involved. Nerissa catches the drive and immediately begins working. This is military encryption, but if you can give me the access protocols, Hotel 77 Alpha. Talia recites from memory. Secondary authentication, Darkmere, Viral, 1997. The date makes Serafina's blood run cold. 1997, the year Talia disappeared. They've been using her kidnapping as a password. Download in progress, Nerissa announces. But we need somewhere safe to finish this. If Blackwood realizes what we're doing, the decision is made for them. Through the parking garage's entrance, Serafina sees police vehicles arriving, not the local units that might be compromised, but federal vehicles with FBI markings. Garrick, Lysandra says urgently, please tell me you called in backup. The moment I recognized this was a trap, he confirms. But I wasn't sure they'd believe me without proof. Well, they're about to get more proof than they can handle. Nerissa says as her progress bar hits 90%, but Kaylin isn't finished. Even with federal agents closing in, even with 6 years of evidence about to flood the internet, he makes one final desperate play. His hand moves toward a device on his belt. Not a weapon, but something far more dangerous than a dead man's switch. That will trigger the execution of every woman in Blackwood's custody. Stop. Talia's voice cracks like a whip across the concrete space. Touch that switch, and I put a bullet in your spine. Kaylin's hand freezes inches from the device clipped to his belt. Around the garage, everyone has gone perfectly still, understanding that the next few seconds will determine whether dozens of innocent women live or die. You know I'll do it, Kaylin says, his voice taking on the calm cadence of someone who's accepted his own death. The moment my heart stops, every facility receives the termination order. 43 women across 6 countries, dead within minutes. Federal agents pour through the garage entrances, their tactical gear and weapons trained on the Blackwood operatives. But they're too far away to intervene, and everyone knows it. There's a third option, Serafina says, stepping forward despite every instinct screaming at her to run. You let them live, and I come with you willingly. No resistance, no more uploads, no more evidence gathering. Just me for them. Serafina, no, Lysandra protests. It's the only way. Serafina keeps her eyes fixed on Kaylin. You invested for years in me. That has to be worth something to your organization. Kaylin considers this, his hand still hovering over the dead man's switch. 1 asset in exchange for 43? The mathematics don't work in our favor. But I'm not just any asset, Serafina continues, forcing her voice to remain steady. I'm the one who found your operation. I'm the one who exposed your methods. Your clients will want to know exactly how their security was compromised. She can see the calculation in his eyes. In Blackwood's twisted economy, she represents both a valuable commodity and a dangerous variable that needs to be contained. 10 seconds. Nerissa whispers urgently. Her upload progress shows 98% complete. Kaylin, Talia says softly. Look at me. He turns toward her, and for the first time since Serafina has known him, his mask of control completely slips. What she sees underneath isn't the cold predator from the basement, but something far more pathetic. A broken man who spent so long manipulating others that he's forgotten who he really is. You know what they did to me in that compound? Talia continues, her voice gentle now, almost hypnotic. You know what they made me do? What they made me become? Talia, don't, but they also taught me something valuable. They taught me that some chains can never be broken from the outside. They have to be shattered from within. She shifts her grip on the pistol, and suddenly it's pointed not at Kaylin, but at herself. You move toward that switch, and I kill myself right here, she says matter-of-factly. 6 years of intelligence, 6 years of memorized codes and protocols. Gone forever. Your organization loses its most valuable intelligence asset, and you get nothing in return. The threat hits Kaylin like a physical blow. You're bluffing. The conditioning wouldn't allow. The conditioning broke 3 years ago, Talia interrupts. I've been free in my own mind ever since. I just had to wait for the right moment to act. Narissa's tablet chimes softly. Upload complete. Everything's live. Around the garage, phones begin buzzing as news alerts flood social media feeds. The Blackwood files are now in the wild, spreading across the internet faster than any organization can contain them. Kaylin stares at his own phone as notifications cascade across the screen. Financial records, client lists, facility locations, everything Blackwood spent decades building is collapsing in real time. It's over, Garrick says, lowering his weapon as federal agents surround the remaining operatives. Whatever kill switches you have, whatever contingencies you planned, they won't matter now. Every law enforcement agency in the world is about to come down on your organization. You don't understand, Kaylin says, but his voice has lost its edge. These people, our clients, they don't accept failure. They'll eliminate everyone involved rather than risk exposure. Then you'd better hope witness protection is everything it's cracked up to be, Lysandra says as FBI agents move in to arrest him. As the handcuffs click around Kaylin's wrists, Talia finally lowers her pistol. She's shaking now, the adrenaline, and 6 years of suppressed trauma finally catching up with her. Talia, Lysandra says, approaching her sister slowly. It's over. You're safe now. Am I? Talia's voice is small, fragile. How do you come back from something like this? How? Do you become human again after they've turned you into a thing? Serafina doesn't have an answer for that. None of them do. But as federal agents secure the scene and EMTs arrive to check on the survivors, she realizes that sometimes survival is enough. Sometimes just living through the horror is its own form of victory. 6 months later, the courthouse steps in downtown Boston buzz with media activity as prosecutors announce the largest human trafficking conviction in U.S. history. Serafina adjusts her blazer and prepares to face the cameras one more time, knowing that her testimony helped secure sentences for 17 defendants and led to rescue operations across 3 continents. Beside her, Lysandra holds Talia's hand as they watch Kaylin being led away in shackles. He'll spend the rest of his life in federal prison, but more importantly, the network he served has been dismantled piece by piece. 47 women, Talia says quietly. That's how many we saved. It's the first number she's spoken aloud since her rescue. Her therapist calls it progress. 47 women who get to go home, Serafina agrees. 47 families who get their daughters back. In her purse, she still carries the wedding photographs that never should have existed, images of a ceremony that was always meant to be a prelude to kidnapping. Sometimes she thinks about burning them, but they serve as a reminder that even the most carefully constructed lies eventually crumble when exposed to truth. As the media crowd disperses and the courthouse empties, the 3 women stand together. In the afternoon sunlight, they're no longer victims, no longer prey. They're survivors, and they're finally, truly free. The wedding album that started it all sits in an evidence locker somewhere. Its sealed pages a testament to the life Serafina was meant to lose. But the story it tells is no longer one of perfect deception. That it's a story of women who refuse to disappear quietly into the dark.